Welcome you to the Australian Pavilion and just say how wonderful it is to come together with friends here in Baku. In my home country of Australia, it's commonplace to start events like this by acknowledging the traditional owners or the first peoples of the lands that we meet on. And that's because Australia has a rich and proud Indigenous history, with Australia's First Nations communities recognised as having the world's oldest living continuing culture. So I'd encourage you all to learn more about Australia's First Nations approaches to caring for country and dealing with the impacts of climate change through the program of events right here at the Australian Pavilion during your time at the COP. And I look forward to learning more about Indigenous knowledges from other countries over the next days at the COP too, where they are generously being shared. So can I take this opportunity to thank the ICCN for bringing us together today and for paying for the drinks. So a round of applause for shouting the bar. Is it any wonder they're so popular? And to each of you for finding time to join the conversation in what I know are very busy schedules. So my name is Matt Keane, for those of you that don't know me, and I have the privilege of chairing Australia's Climate Authority. And I really value engagement and collaboration with other climate leaders around the world. And I know the Australian government does also. So no matter where you've come from to be here in Baku for this year's COP, we're all working towards a common and urgent goal. We must drive down emissions as far as we can, as fast as we can. Not in 10 or 15 years, but right now. So in Australia, we're already living with the impacts of climate change. Communities in each of our countries are dealing with extreme weather events like heat waves, floods, and fires that are hitting home more often at huge costs to lives and livelihoods. This year in Australia alone, we've seen historic heat waves in the west of our country, along with heavy flooding in central and the northern regions of our country. Just last week, temperatures soared to 44 degrees in 5 of Australia's 8 states and territories, turning up the heat to dangerous levels as our wildfire season just gets underway. Strong collaborative action now is urgent and essential to protect communities from worse to come, and to set all of our countries up for to keep thriving in a decarbonised global economy. Independent climate councils like ours have a big role to play in getting countries and the world on the right track for deep cuts to emissions. When we speak, people listen. They listen because the world is awash with noise about climate change and the energy transition, and independent councils provide evidence-based, impartial information that the public can rely on. We keep our focus on the science, engineering, and the economics. What's possible today and what's coming down the pipeline tomorrow. The practical steps that we can take to drive deep cuts to emissions across our economies. The policies and investment needed to underpin them. Independent climate councils can light the path for government, businesses, and communities to follow, and hold them accountable all the way to net zero. In this essential work, international collaboration is a powerful tool. The innovation and lessons learned in one country can become the spark for action in another. The accountability tools and frameworks we build in one place can help set new norms everywhere, progressively raising the bar on transparent, inclusive, and ambitious climate action. So from the Australian Climate Authority, I can say that we stand ready to work with each of you to find shared solutions to the urgent challenges that we're facing, to explain what it will take to get to net zero and drive ambitious action all the way, and to help communities understand how much we stand to gain building broad and durable support for that action. So here in Australia, we look forward to driving action together during this critical time for change. In doing so, we can do what no generation before us has ever done, and that's leave our planet far better than we found it to our kids, but also hand our economies more prosperous than any generation before us has ever imagined was possible. Every generation has had to rise to the challenge of their times. My parents' generation went off and fought in the war to end tyranny. My parents' generation fought for more women's rights, better human rights. They were the battles of their generations, and we still have a long way to go on those. The challenge for our generation is how do we protect our planet and grow our economy? If we grab this chance, we can do both and leave a legacy that future generations will remember us for and celebrate us for. Let's do it together. Thank you so much for being here and looking forward to rising to this occasion. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Matt. Welcome, everyone. I'm Carla Hill from the International Climate Council's Network Secretariat and E3G, the climate change think tank. It's great to see you here tonight. Welcome to the Australia Pavilion and to this International Climate Council's network reception. Welcome to our members. We have about 7 councils present, 7 or 8. I'm thinking that my numbers might be slightly wrong, seeing some of the faces in the crowd, which is really nice. So welcome to South Africa, to Denmark, Sweden, Canada, Finland, Ireland, and South Korea, and also to the UK. Good to see you here. The ICCN was set up in 2021 by a group of climate councils that wanted to come together and share practice, to share their experiences around the unique role that they play in climate governance. And this year, I would say that we are now a 25-member network, a global network across 6 or 7 continents, and it's wonderful to be gathered here at COP29. The councils, I know you've had an incredibly busy year. You play that vital role helping guide governments on the policies, their pathways, their choices that they need to make, and also monitoring their actions and checking on their progress. And I think it's that real kind of consistency of advice and monitoring over time across society, across economies, and across government that really is the value that's been coming through for me in working with you here in the last few days. And that is just a huge value add. So I think that governance in action is what we're seeing. Governance is often a very dry topic, I know, because I've spent my career on it, and it can be quite hard to explain what it is. So it's really nice to be with you here and see it in action. That policy function, the evidence-based advice to government, the monitoring, but also building public support, stakeholder support, investor support, and building confidence in the transition and that we can do this together. Another milestone in 2024 has been the creation of this secretariat, and I'm delighted to be working with the network and creating this small secretariat to really amplify your work together and also to help others explore what they might be able to do and learn, whether that's policy learning and knowledge sharing, or considering whether they would like to have a climate council that could help their government and what that could look like. So I'm pleased to be here with my colleague Ben Rhodes, who's joined as the head of secretariat. So thanks, Ben, for all your work pulling this together. I also tonight have the pleasure and privilege to welcome new members to the ICCN. Ukraine created this year a Green Transition Office and has joined the ICCN network, and we'll hear from Andre in a moment. And we also have Nigeria has a new National Climate Change Council, and they are also part of the ICCN network. So also great to have Nigeria on board. Looking to the future, we really want to, and as we are sort of standing here at COP29, We know that we have a lot to do, countries have a lot to do to get their nationally determined contributions in order and to work towards ambition, but also showing the progress and delivery to the next COP in Brazil. It's fantastic to see that we did have one NDC announced yesterday that was following the advice of the UK Committee on Climate Change, so that is great. We know that we've got good evidence in development to show the real benefit of councils. Again, the consistency, the independent advice, and all of those good things. So we want to continue to build that evidence base and inspire others, and then also share the learnings between the network. So I think we could start to think about what's the vision by 2030. How many climate councils? Are they the norm? How do they work together in a distributed and stronger network, a global network? So I'm really excited about the possibilities and looking forward to working with you this week and in the future to create that future and to contribute to the important challenge of our time as we've heard. So I'll leave it there. We're going to show you a short video and that tells you a little bit more about climate councils and the role that they play. And then we will hear from Ukraine and also from Crispin Olver from South Africa on the value of climate councils and the network. Thank you very much.
As the world faces the urgent challenge of limiting global warming, grounding national climate governance in science has never been more essential. Climate science provides the foundation for policies that protect people, our economies, and ecosystems.
Since their inception, national climate councils have played a pivotal role in embedding this evidence into policy frameworks, providing governments with the expert advice and fact basis needed to drive decarbonization efforts, to improve resilience, and to help navigate the complex pathways to a sustainable future.
To build on these successes, we must expand the adoption of advisory bodies worldwide, using evidence to build agreement and guide the climate transition.
The climate discussion is often contentious, it's fraught, it's difficult, and climate councils can help build the social consensus necessary to propel real progress, ensuring climate action is effective, accountable, and fair.
Countries with climate councils not only gain expert-led advice, but can also increase investor certainty and build public trust by creating confidence that countries will stick to their long-term climate targets. Currently, there are 25 national climate councils that are part of the International Climate Councils Network. Each council has a unique model tailored to the needs of their own jurisdiction, with the member-owned network providing the necessary support and best practices globally. The International Climate Councils Network is here to support countries to establish their own climate councils.
As a member of the International Climate Council Network, we have not only benefited from our participation and engagements, but have learned and grown our own reach and depth of knowledge on the common challenge we face.
The climate panel's broad scientific approach ensures that decision makers have information to consider a wide range of solutions, making our climate policies more efficient.
Los beneficios que ha traído el sistema guatemalteco de ciencia de cambio climático en la mejora de las tomas de decisiones políticas es una muestra que invita a otros países a establecer este tipo de consensos científicos.
The European Scientific Advisory Board on Climate Change was established to provide scientific knowledge, expertise and advice relating to climate change.
We also recognise the really important role that organisations such as the UK's Committee on Climate Change has to interpret the plans that countries have and the difference between the policies and those plans.
The Australian Government supports the work of the ICCN in fostering collaboration and support between climate councils, and we encourage non-members to consider the benefits of establishing their own independent climate councils to assist with the energy transitions.
Through peer-to-peer knowledge sharing and access to expert resources, we help nations build the capacity needed for effective climate governance.
If your country is ready to join this movement, we're here to help.
Together we can strengthen climate governance worldwide. Andre, welcome.
Thank you. I know that I am on your way to drinks and nice networking, so I will be brief. To be serious, Ukraine now is going through the most difficult moment in its history since the Second World War. Russian aggression killed hundreds of people, destroyed maybe 30% of our economy, and like push millions of Ukrainians to leave their homes. And in this situation, a year ago, we came to our government and suggested them to consider establishing kind of climate council. They considered the idea something really crazy. They didn't told it, but I felt it, that it was like in the air. Why do we need to care about climate change when, to be honest, tomorrow we may lose our country? But the answer is that we should care because we want our country to exist. And in this situation, we have only few opportunities, few ways to move forward. Basically, even maybe only one. We should transform our country as soon as possible and join the EU. We don't have another opportunity, and like we know that we are not ready for that right now, and like we must do a lot, especially in climate change sphere. That's why we need climate council. That's why we are trying to help our government to go through this pathway to the EU and then pathway to net zero. This is a pathway in one direction for us. We convince our government to establish the council. We convince very knowledgeable persons from our country or abroad to join our team, to leave their current positions and take this adventure. And now we are here, and I am here. Thank you very much for invitation. For me personally, it's very important, and but like we totally understand that the future will be maybe even more challenging than we have right now, because believe me, it's extremely difficult to explain the Ministry of Finance, for example, that decarbonization should be on the agenda right now, and it will be like that for many years ahead. But as I said, we have strategy, we have a team dedicated to this job, and we want to succeed. We want our country to succeed. And as I said, I really happy to be here, and I wish all of us a successful road to net zero. Hopefully, we could find synergies between our teams and help each other to meet our targets. Thank you.
Thanks, Andre. Crispian Olva from the South African Presidential Climate Commission. Welcome, Crispian.
Thank you, Carla. Very good evening, everyone. And thank you to our hosts and Matt for the very warm words of welcome, and to Ben and Carla for all the work you've done. I mean, I was just commenting, the Climate Council's network's been a little bit disparate at previous COPs. I mean, we had a few informal networking sessions, but you've brought a real backbone of organization. And, you can feel the ICCN presence here. So it's fantastic, the work that you're doing. And I think you're going to see this network grow and expand as we move forward. And Andre, thank you for your comments. I mean, what you guys are doing, this isn't, you're facing an immediate existential threat as the world contemplates this broader existential threat of climate change. And, I know it's very difficult where you are to be thinking about the long-term trajectory of your economy, but when the time comes for reconstruction and development, know that we will all be there with you to help craft that new green, low-carbon future. So I want to say a few words about the South African Climate Commission, but merely to illustrate a point, and I'll come to the point. So we were set up a couple of years ago, partly as a result of a major mind shift that went on in South African society and in our economy. And that was the realization that this thing that the environmentalists have been whining about for the last couple of decades isn't just an environmental issue. It's fundamentally at its heart a set of economic and social policy choices. And for us, it's also an existential issue because coal's a vast part of our economy. 82% of our power comes from burning coal. We've got a huge amount of jobs in the coal value chain, and we export a lot of it, including to Europe in the middle of their energy crisis. So the odd thing that the Ukraine war did for us is that all of our coal companies printed money on the back of the exports to Europe as they restocked their stockpiles. There was a positive message from that because guess what they did with that money that they had amassed? They invested it in renewable energy. So coal companies have started to become diversified energy companies. But make no mistake, I mean, this transition that we're in is going to have profound economic and social implications. It's going to be very disruptive, and it's triggering a huge amount of pushback and anxiety. And, you know, we're grappling with political economy questions as, you know, 10,000 highly unionized workers start to worry about where their next paycheck's going to be coming from. So as a commission, we got set up, you know, as this mind shift was taking place in our economy, and we came out of a social compact between business, labor, and government, where they said we need to deal with the long-term threat to jobs and social security as a result of the transition. So we were set up slightly differently from some of the other climate councils. I mean, many of them are grounded in science and in academia and have a very strong advisory role. We were set up as a multi-stakeholder commission. We've got different social partners, we've got faith leaders, we've got local government mayors, it's a very broad church, youth activists, and we have a very strong social compacting role. So our mandate from the president is go out there and try and forge a social consensus around these difficult choices involved in this climate transition. We also advisory, so you know we're not ourselves scientists, but we engage deeply with the science and we engage with the academic community and we mobilize that advice, and having engaged stakeholders on it, give it back to government. And government doesn't always agree with what we say. We know that we, in fact, doing our work well when there's a little bit of resistance. But a couple of our recommendations, like on the NDC and on the Just Transition Framework, got adopted by Cabinet, and we were extremely pleased about that. I'm not sure they're going to agree with us on the next NDC because, you know, we're committed to make sure that it's more ambitious than the previous NDC, and it's on a steady trajectory, in fact, a concave trajectory to net zero by 2050. So that's our commitment, and it's our commitment to the South African society. So we will give advice. Whether it's taken on board, I can't tell you, but there will be a brokering that takes place between stakeholders, and we'll end up at some point. So, you know, as countries navigate this transition, I do want to just emphasize the value of having independent science-based bodies standing outside of the, you know, the nest of government interests and lobbying and decision making, pointing the way and saying this is the path that needs to be followed. And for those of the councils that do have social engagement and social compacting roles, also forging that, you know, this is a deep consensus that we have to build in society about the path that we have to travel. So councils are very important. We'd like to see more developing countries with councils. And we'd like to see more councils part of the ICCN network. It's vitally important. I mean, we've learned an enormous amount from the other councils that exist. It's a very valuable engagement. And it's amazing how, you know, developed and developing, we're all on a similar journey. You know, some might be going a little bit faster than others, but we're grappling with similar issues, and we're dealing with technologies and sectors that we're all going to have to eventually overcome and master. So on that note, you know, those of you that aren't part of the network, please join. We're actually quite a fun bunch. I know we look very serious, but we do have fun and engaging conversations. And I'll hand back to Carla.
Thanks, Crispian. That's brilliant. I'm not going to say anything more other than to just again thank you for all being here, for showing us climate governance in action, but also this network in action. We do have a brief with some more information about the International Climate Council's network, and as I said, we've got lots of members here. So if you're not from the network, do take this opportunity to find out more and connect with people. So wishing you all a good drink. We'll allow you back to the drinks table. Oh, it's okay. Yes, and thanks also for the support from the European Climate Foundation as well for the support to the ICCN. So thank you all, and enjoy the drinks.